Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It is Monday. It is nice, bright and early at 6 a.m. I've just made my very new version of a protein oat cookie. I saw Brandon Harden doing it on YouTube, so I thought I had to try it. I tried it yesterday. It was not very good. I made the mistake of putting honey on the cookie before I air fried it, and the honey obviously doesn't cook very well, so it burns. But today, I think I nailed it. It tastes really good. It literally just tastes like oats, but it's just like crusty on the end. That's the only difference. But I might keep this in the rotation. The thing that I liked about it was that there was actually less steps for me to actually have to make oats. I just had to make oats with a few less steps and then just air fry it. So that part of it I liked, and then while I was cooking I could make coffee, take my supplements, do all the other things I do, journal in the morning, all the other important things, and then once I was done, it was basically done and I could just eat it. So I actually really liked that aspect of things. So if you are short on time and you want to try this, go for it. It's literally just oats, protein. I put banana on it. I think Brandon had blueberries, and then I put honey on top after with a bit of cinnamon. So that's something you want to try, definitely go for it. Today I'm bringing you guys along for a back workout. Basically just going to run through like the most important things that you need to understand if you want to grow a bigger back. So, you know, how we should be training, things like your pre and post workout meal and why it's so important. So I obviously have oats in the morning. This is always my pre-workout meal, and the reason a pre-workout meal is so important, whether you're bulking, whether you're cutting, is because those are going to be your energy stores for the workout. Now, if you are bulking, you're probably going to be doing this like way before the workout, probably like the day before. You'll probably make sure you have a decent meal for dinner the night before, and then a pre-workout meal, and then you'll go train. So you'll probably have more calories to play with to be able to fuel up for that session. But if you're not doing that, even when you're on a cut, you're missing out on maintaining or building a lot of muscle during that time, because that is the fuel for that session. And if you're not utilizing that, you're going to be missing out on a lot of gains. So in terms of everything else, update on me. So currently we actually got an increase on calories for the time being. So next week we start our push for the growth phase. So we're just sitting in maintenance at the moment, cruising, nothing crazy. We're sitting on like 3,200 calories. We increased our food because I kept dropping weight, which we obviously didn't want. But 45 minutes of cardio, yeah, we've got the same program as we've been doing. But I don't think I've shown you guys this back workout yet, so that'll be really exciting. I've got some pull-ups in there, heaps of rows and stuff. And I'm gonna do a voiceover and just basically run through of like why I'm doing each exercise in the order that I'm doing it, and what I'm thinking about when I'm executing these movements. Because I think when it comes to training back, like most people, the reason they don't know how to build a bigger back is because they can't see it. You know, when you're doing bicep curls or chest press, you can kind of look at yourself in the mirror, whereas back, you can't see it. It's not something you can look at yourself do. So a lot of people fuck it up, and I'm going to show you guys how you can actually think about doing it properly without having to see yourself in the mirror, or even just using things like recording yourself is going to be a great way to do it as well. So heaps of value that's going to be packed into this video. If you guys enjoy it, this is a great time for you to like, share, subscribe to the channel.
Once we got to the gym, we started the workout off with some pull-ups. Now, the reason these are first is because whatever you want to prioritize in your back training, you should always do first. It's when you're going to be the freshest. And it would make sense to do something like pull-ups, because if you do that later in the workout, it's not going to be the most efficient way to train the back, because you're already going to have a lot of fatigue that's going to be carried over from the other exercises. So if you do want to add pull-ups into your program, I would highly recommend doing them at the start. Now, in terms of the way that I'm trying to do this with my technique, I always try to keep my chest up to the bar, getting my chin just above the bar, keeping my feet slightly in front and driving my elbows all the way down. Now, also, if you do plan to progress this with weights like dumbbells, a dip belt or some sort of weighted vest belt is going to be the best way to do this, as putting it in between your legs is a useful way to do it, but it's going to be really difficult because the weight just feels wonky. You're going to be worrying about trying to hold the weight between your legs. If you have a dip belt, definitely use it. Okay, next up we had a chest supported row. In this case, I'm using the Prime chest supported row. Now, not everyone's going to have access to this type of equipment, but I do wholeheartedly believe that if you want to grow a bigger upper back, or even lats for that matter, having some sort of chest supported row variation in your training is going to be absolutely non-negotiable. The reason for this is because by having the chest pad there, you can really just focus on driving the elbows all the way back, really getting as much of a stretch and a contraction in that upper back. In this case, you can see that my elbows are slightly wider as well. This is going to slightly bias more of that upper back, those rear delts. It's really important to understand that where your elbows go when it comes to training your back is going to dictate what part of the back you're using. And this is very important, as when it comes to most people who can't feel or see their back the best and have a great connection, your elbow position is going to be the thing that dictates that the most. So if you want that upper back to be working, having a nice wide high elbow position is the best way to go about it. Moving on to the next exercise, which was the single arm cable row. Now, one thing you'll notice when I'm doing this is that my elbow is very close to my hip. This was because I was very much trying to engage and target a lot more of my lats. You'll also notice I got the same arm and leg in front to help post myself up and be a little bit more stable on that same side, so I could get more out of the back and the lat on that side. Now, when we're doing this, I'm really trying to focus on keeping my chest up nice and proud, driving that elbow to the hip, and just really trying to feel as much of my lats as I can. And this is why recording yourself is also so important, so you can see what you're doing. One thing I'll even pick apart with myself here is that I probably could have a bit more of a prouder chest here, but overall still pretty decent work here. You can see that I'm working pretty hard. Something that was a little bit different to what I usually do is that the cable, you'll see, is like pitched up a little bit higher on a higher setting. Now, this did feel pretty good. Usually I'm just doing it on a normal cable row that's just horizontal to me. This also works really well. I was just playing around and experimenting with some things for this one, but both work extremely well to target those lats. All right, that was it for back for this session. We're moving on to some biceps now. One thing that's worth noting here as well is that you don't need to do a ton of back volume for it to grow. You just need to put it in the right positions, train it properly, and train with a high level of intensity. Now, for the bicep curls, there's really not much to go over here. I was doing an incline bicep curl here, so my elbows are slightly behind my torso, which puts the biceps in a bit more of a stretch position. The main thing you want to look at and think about when you're doing this is just not letting the shoulders sort of roll forward, making sure that rib cage and that chest is nice and proud, and you're keeping those elbows behind the torso. Those are the most important things to target the bicep in that lengthened position. Now, obviously this is a pull day, but we still added in some triceps. The reason being for this is because they're not going to really be worked right. So they're going to be pretty fresh. So whatever work you do on them is going to be pretty high quality work. And that's one thing that you always need to look at when you're trying to grow a body part or a muscle group is it going to be fresh on that day? Can you get the most out of it? And is it going to be able to recover? Which in this case, it makes sense to put in here. Now, this exercise I actually love. I'm someone who gets elbow pain on dumbbells. So I've recently switched this to cable, and the pump and the lack of elbow pain has been phenomenal. So if you want to try this out, I highly recommend doing so. Just getting into it can be a little bit tough. Then we finished up with some biceps and tricep supersets. So the first exercise was a hammer rope curl. This exercise, there's really not much to be focusing on. I almost like to think of it as like a drag curl, like I'm dragging my arms up or my wrists to my shoulders. You'll see here, like I am technically curling, but it's almost like I'm dragging the rope up. And then from there, we went on to just a conventional easy bar tricep push down, trying to keep my elbows pretty tight and close to the body and pushing almost like towards my hips, but not actually hitting my hips. And that was the whole workout. Overall, you might look at this and think this was a really big workout, lots of exercises, but on most of those last 3 to 4 exercises, they were only 2 sets. So it was very intentional with where I was putting my energy. More sets on the stuff that needed the most attention and less sets on stuff that didn't require as much for that session. And that way we can break it up across the week. And this is why the program itself is so important, to look at things from a broader picture, because it's not just about the session itself, it's about what you're doing across a whole training block.
All right, guys, what is going on? We are back home. It's actually been like a whole day and I haven't filmed since the gym. So I will be basically trying to make this essentially what I was meant to do was to actually tell you guys why post-workout meals are so important. But I do have a meal here that is pretty carb dense. So I'm gonna go over and still use that as an example as why this would be a very good post-workout meal option, and the importance of that as well, because we need to understand that when you're training, you're obviously burning through glycogen stores, you're obviously exerting a lot of energy as well, and carbohydrates is your primary source of energy. So pre-workout, you do wanna have something that is very carb dense, nutrients as well as like a little bit of protein in there. But essentially pre-workout, you want it mainly to be carbohydrates because that's what's going to be fueling your workout, giving you the energy to push. And obviously, as I was saying earlier in the video, like this is something you want to take into account, even like the day before. It's like if you know that you're going to have a big leg session the day before, like pushing some of your carbs towards later in the day. So one, that you can sleep well, and two, you can have that energy for the next day for legs as well. So that's something that's worth doing. But then, coming to post-workout, you are burnt off all that energy, you've burnt off all that carbohydrates. You want to make sure that you're refueling the muscles properly, as well as getting some protein in to, uptake that protein synthesis. Now, it doesn't need to be straight away. There's the anabolic window isn't something that you must follow. If it's something that you want to do, then go for it. I'm not going to stop you, but it's not a must-do thing. But carbohydrates post-workout, I would argue, is actually more important, just to make sure you're refueling those glycogen stores in the muscles, and that's going to help you recover a lot better and kickstart that recovery process a lot better too as well. So if you're someone who's trying to build muscle, if you're someone who's trying to make the most amount of progress in the gym, pre and post-workout is essential for muscle growth and gains and performance. And that honestly has taken my training, my progress to another level. So if you want to really take your training to another level, make sure you prioritize that. But essentially, guys, that is it for the video today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, this is a great time to like, share, subscribe, follow along the journey, and keep watching and following along for more videos. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you very much.